Rats by Elias Lamshaw. The woman pauses and listens. She hears nothing, which is a good sign. Still, her fingers curl around the composite grip of her rifle, and she brings it upward. 10 years ago, it would have been inconceivable that she would ever touch a gun. Now it's with her at all times, even when she's asleep. Teaching her how to use it was the only gift her father ever gave her. At least it was a good one. Snow mixed with broken rubble and melted glass crunches beneath the rubber soles of her boots. The sound is dangerously loud in the ruins of the old city. It bounces off of every wall and every rusted hunk of metal that used to be a car. She pauses again to listen. Did anything hear her? Her heart pounds in her chest, and she has to force herself to calm down. Being in the city is dangerous for a lot of reasons, but the rats are the biggest reason of all. She was only 15 when the bombs fell, but she'd heard it said that the only thing that would survive a nuclear holocaust would be the roaches and Twinkies. Well, she hasn't had a Twinkie in years, and the roaches did survive, but mostly stayed the same. The real winners of the nuclear war were the rats. They got bigger and meaner, and there are a hell of a lot of them. She considers turning around and going back. What was the point of going into the city? So she can die a horrible, painful death, and her daughter can die sick and alone anyway? The woman hesitates and looks back over her shoulder. It would be so much easier that way. The girl would die a relatively dignified death in a world where a brutal, bloody end was the norm. Coward. You might as well eat a bullet then. A life for a life. She pushes forward. The rubber of her gas mask digs into her skin, and the lenses fog up easily. She wants to tear the damn thing from her face. It constricts her view and makes things that much harder, but the Geiger counter on her belt is hissing angrily. If she takes it off now, she'll be dead within a day or two at best. Might as well let the rats get her if she does that. Something big and ugly leaps from the skeletal ruins of a skyscraper in the distance and catches the air on a pair of thick, leathery wings. It disappears somewhere into the streets below. The woman frowns and hesitates, but pushes forward. That thing is far off, and it seems like it has already found itself a meal. The road ahead of her is soon blocked by the melted and highly radioactive remains of cars. It was late in the afternoon when the bombs fell, and most people were probably on their way home. Some of them may have survived if they had just left a little earlier, or if they'd taken the day off. Now they forever haunt this stretch of road. She cuts left through an alley. The pharmacy on her map is only a few blocks away, but it feels like she still has miles to go. The alley is narrow and should have been open at the end, but a wreck blocks the exit. It would have been nothing to climb over it, but her Geiger counter screams in protest as she gets near it. The skeleton inside stares at her with empty sockets and dares her to try it. Instead, she cuts through a hole blasted in the brick wall to her right. She clicks on the flashlight clip to her breast pocket. The beam is a weak yellow and splashes across a room filled with washing machines and dryers. A brighter light would have made her feel better, but this flashlight can be cranked and doesn't need batteries. That reliability is a necessity. It was a night of heated passion that led to her daughter being born. A trading caravan from another community had swept through their area, and she'd made the mistake of letting her guard down, of getting too close to one of the guys running protection. In the morning, he was gone, and 9 months later, her daughter was born. For the past 3 years, she's raised the girl the best she can, but in the end, it'll prove fruitless. Humanity isn't king anymore, and sooner or later, they'll all realize they're already dead. But until that day, she'll do her best. Bones. They form piles in the corners of the room, and fragments litter the floor like broken glass. Streaks of brown stain the once white tiles. The woman's breath catches in her throat. It takes everything she has to stop her hands from shaking. It's a nest. The worst possible place in the world she could be. Her limbs are frozen in fear, and tears run down her face, making the problem of her lenses fogging up that much worse. She's as good as dead, and she knows it. The rats are probably all around her now, watching and waiting. They'll rip her to shreds, and she'll never make it to the pharmacy. She'll never get the antibiotics for her little girl, and the girl will die. The woman clenches her teeth. You worthless coward. You're just going to give up like that? You're pathetic. You deserve to die. More tears. Maybe this is how it should end. She should have died a long time ago, with the rest of her family. The little girl should have never been born. 2 wrongs snuffed out in an instant. Nature correcting itself. Your father was right. You are worthless. He should have left you behind, just like you're going to leave her behind. Something moves in the darkness, just beyond the edge of her light. Something furry. Something hungry. Well, what are you waiting for? Death is right there. Go ahead and lay down now. Let them chew and rip and tear the flesh from your bones. More things moving in the darkness. There's 10, 15, maybe even 20 of them. She can't see them, but she can hear them. The meaty slap of their paws on the tile floor. Screw you. She turns and lets loose a burst of automatic fire into the closest shape. There's a shriek. Something hits the floor, and then there's a swarm of new shapes around it, and the unmistakable sound of ripping meat and a dying scream that chills her to her core. They don't even care that it's one of them, that the poor bastard isn't even dead yet. Meat is meat. She runs, the sound of her boots echoing off the walls. Bones crunch beneath her feet. Occasionally she fires off a burst into the darkness to keep the rats at bay, to keep their bellies full on something else. She sees the outline of a door. Someone has covered the broken glass of the door in plywood. Someone survived in here in the aftermath of the bombs and tried to make this place safe. But there's nowhere safe in the cities. She slams herself against the plywood and smashes through it with a shower of splinters. The ground rushes up to meet her, and the impact knocks the wind from her lungs. She groans, but lifts herself. There's no time. Rats pour out of the open doorway like a living ocean. It's a nightmare born from the depths of hell. The rats have tripled and quadrupled in size from their natural state. Once covered in gray or brown fur, they are now hairless and covered in boils and tumors that give them strange, vulgar shapes. How can there be so many? How can a world like this support such a population? She looks back over her shoulder as she runs. There's too many rats, and she has too few bullets. She could try to wound a few more, draw attention away from herself, but somehow she thinks it wouldn't even slow down the tide. If she's going to escape, she needs to get higher. Ahead, she spots the body shape of a fire truck. Her Geiger counter screams as she gets closer to it, begging her to stay away. She ignores it and runs around the back. As a kid, she had climbed on one at the local station one summer. She could remember a ladder on the back so that firemen could reach the hoses stored there. It isn't much, but there's nothing else she can do. Physically and mentally exhausted, she climbs on top of the truck and lies down. The Geiger counter continues to cry, but she ignores it and shuts it off. She doesn't need it to know she's dying anyway. All around the truck, the rats are screeching and squeaking in frustration. As much as they try, they can't reach her. She closes her eyes and waits. Warm sunlight passes through the lenses of her mask. The woman sits upright and curses. She's already been gone too long. Already been in the radiation too long. Doesn't matter, though. She's still alive and still has a job to do. She looks over the edge. The rats are gone. A few gnawed bones and shreds of tattered gray meat form little islands on the asphalt. In their hunger and frustration, they must have turned on each other. She rolls off the side of the truck and barely lands on her feet. Her body feels like an inferno. The pharmacy isn't far. She can see the entrance. Under her breath, she prays there's still something there. The door stands open. Broken glass litters the floor. She spots the dulled casings of an automatic rifle littering the floor alongside smaller pistol casings. Holes line the walls. A last desperate act between two people with no winner. Utterly and bitterly ironic. She steps over the skeletons on the floor, which still cradle their empty weapons. Her breath catching in her throat, heart pounding in her chest. God, let there be something. The shelves are lined with bottles of medicine with indecipherable names. She doesn't know what half of them do, but what she does know is that the antibiotics like penicillin and amoxicillin are gone. Their spots on the shelves are empty. Come on, please, let there be something. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a hastily scrawled note with the names of drugs. She's never heard of half of these, but knows from the source that they're antibiotics. Hopefully the looters that took the other drugs left a few. Sweat pouring down the sides of her face, hands shaking, she moves from shelf to shelf in search of the drugs. Thankfully, they're in a somewhat alphabetical order, and soon she finds what she's looking for. A bottle of white powder. The name matches one of the several on her list. She stuffs it in her bag and sighs. The hard part is over now. Now she just has to get home. Thank you for listening to Rats. If you enjoyed the story, consider sharing it and checking out some of my others. I hope you have a wonderful day.